Hello, my name is Michael Salmony, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode where we talk to the most interesting people around fintech. And today I'm super thrilled to have Oscar from Trustly, who has some very interesting insights, which I don't think you will hear in other places, about how to get merchants happy using open banking. So, Oscar, over to you. Please tell us more about this.
Hello, Michael. Good to be here. Yes, I work at Trustly, an open banking payment solutions provider. Indeed, on the topic of creating a payment solution that works for merchants as well, I think we have built something that is a bit more than quote unquote only initiation. So if you want to build an open bank payment solution that works for merchants as well, you have to remember that merchants are used to collect card payments. And with card payments, you have a card acquirer that collects and aggregates all the payments, settles all the payments to the merchant. They do reconciliation. They can deal with payments in different currencies, so on and so forth. So merchants are a bit kind of spoiled for in that respect, and kind of enjoy a good service when accepting card payments. And what we have done and are increasingly, of course, optimizing, improving is building something similar but based on open banking payments. So
So,
the way it works is you have the customer, the user, initiate the payment from the bank account. But rather than sending that payment straight to a merchant's bank account and leaving the merchant to do a lot of manual, everything basically having to be done manually in terms of associating the payment with a different order, making sure that the payment actually settles, all those kind of things. We send the payment to our collecting funds accounts. We effectively act as an acquirer on behalf of the merchant. We can then see all the payments coming in. We can make sure they settle properly. We can route them in the most instant, the most cost-efficient way. And then we notify the merchant accordingly when the payment has been initiated, but also when we are sure that it will settle. So the merchant has certainty. We do reconciliation reporting. We can do payments in different currencies in different countries. And the day we consolidate everything, we set to the merchant. We can also then do payouts or refunds on behalf of the merchant back to the payer.
that's very impressive. So that's obviously a lot more than just initiating a payment, which is the sort of vanilla open banking. But the question, of course, arises if you do all these functions, which I imagine that a merchant would really welcome, are you then beginning to get into cost regions, which are getting back to into cards?
So luckily, the answer is no. These things all, of course, cost money, and indeed, given we collect in different bank accounts, we have costs, direct costs to banks for basically managing and all of this, or helping us to manage all of this. But we still don't. There's still no interchange fee, of course, by virtue of us as a one provider being able to do both initiation, the collection, and the settlement to merchant, there is no network. There's no other parties that also need to have kind of a piece of the pie. So I think from a cost efficient point of view, this is still very good. And by the way, let's remember that for a kind of generic PS scenario, typically the payment will not be set straight to the merchant. It will be set to a collecting PSP. So you'd still have to pay as a merchant for all of that, all those the kind of things to happen. Other than the only exception is you will have to pay two different parties, whereas in our case you pay one party to deal with it all. And for that reason, I think we can be very efficient and very competitive.
That's very good. So that really sounds like the merchant is getting the best of both worlds. He gets all the functionality, like he doesn't get every single payment in one, but he gets them in batches. He gets the reconciliation. He gets better fraud management, all the things that you have, and still pays less for cards. So where would you say is still where cards have the edge, or is open banking just such a superior model now?
So I think there is still kind of a couple of things to do on the user experience side. We have recently introduced something we call Azura. It's an engine. It's our new data engine based on which we can provide a very user friendly experience, which is I think superior to cards really, where we're able to basically remember from where you're paying, so that next time you pay, it's a one time SEA. And so from a user experience point of view, we're still kind of getting there, and I think we've gotten very far. But of course, that's one piece where cars have had an advantage historically. Um, I think post PSD2 or pre PSD2, cards had an advantage in terms of being able to exempt users or payers from SEA. I think that has become much less of an advantage, so to speak, from user experience point of view post PSD2. And so you have more of a kind of level playing field now between cards and open banking payments.
So that sounds like the merchants have a lot of advantages. The users get a better experience, also because it's a sort of fintech who does the interface and not one of the legacy players. What about the banks? How do they feel about that? Both the banks collecting the money and for the merchant and those who are on the retail side.
Yeah, I think on the collecting side, we work with quite a big number of banks. We want to be able to route any payments from a consumer's bank account to in the most efficient way, and that often means routing locally, but also sometimes really intra-bank, because that is how you get the most immediate settlement, the highest settlement certainty, and the most cost-efficient settlement. So we actually have quite a few bank accounts in many of the European larger retail banks. We can route payments in that way, and we can also then make sure that we can provide the merchant with settlement certainty very, very quickly. Whereas otherwise, if you send the payment to the general clearing settlement system, there may be a delay, it may not settle, and that's of course always a problem for the merchant. So we have built kind of a network, proprietary network of bank accounts we can route payments. And all these banks we are client of theirs, and we pay them effectively for the service. So I think on the collecting side, it's pretty clear. On the initiation side, you know that there's no contract required between ourselves and the bank in order to initiate payments. Would we be prepared to reimburse banks, to pay banks for premium functionality? Yes, conceptually, yes. Of course, it has to be commensurate value then for the merchant, for the user as well.
Maybe that's part of the SPA proposal, right? Where every partner gets
Yeah,
some, which we have another video on for those who are interested in that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. What about the assuring that it becomes pervasive? This seems to be the last building block. That I can pay using open banking everywhere. When I book an airline, when I book a rail, when I book it, buy at Amazon, wherever I go, that I always find open banking. What would you say is the last missing bit now?
so it's a flywheel, right? Because you need to have kind of consumer adoption. More consumers want to pay with banking payments, the more merchants will have to accept it, so to speak, and the more merchants offer it, the more consumers will use it. So you have to get the flywheel rolling. I think you have on both sides, on the merchant side, it's always an effort to integrate a new payment method. And so for merchants, they need to invest into that. It takes some time. There's some technical development that needs to be done. So there's certain reasons why that takes time. Although I think in most European countries, the merchants are getting increasingly aware about this and are really keen to getting open banking payments as a kind of a payment option and on into the shop. But then it comes down into these practicalities. For example, you have the problem that some payments don't settle, or you have the problem that some payments are delayed, and that's what we are trying to mitigate with the way we built our solutions. We can provide a certainty to the merchant very quickly. And then on the consumer side, it's really about, I'd say, convenience, and that comes down to the kind of authentication method and kind of the user experience being enabled by the PC2 APIs. And that's why I think many of the PISPs and the third-party providers out there, in particular in the context of PSR, the new kind of regulation that's been proposed by the Commission, are very focused on the user experience. You want to make sure that the consumer, the payer, has a very neat, simple, straightforward experience without any kind of extra steps, NES, extra SCAs, and so on and so forth. And from my point of view, I think the best you have today out there is kind of a biometrics-based authentication with one SCA based on biometrics. Of course, then the API also needs to be very quick, so you don't have a lot of lag time or latency. And part of that is within our remit to control, a part of that can depend on the API. So I think really that is, we need to get kind of merchants to technically integrate and get this into the cashier, the checkouts, and we also need kind of application experience to further improve and the APIs to really become what it should be. Then you really see, I think, open bank payments take off.
That's wonderful, Oscar. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, but I think you made a very good case why open banking is so superior in so many dimensions, from the user point of view, from the financials, from the security, from the UX, from all participants. So I really wish us all luck. Every time I type in another 16-digit number and CCV code on a website, I always say, when is this open banking going to provide us an alternative? So I wish us all luck that this will happen very soon. Thank you very much, Oscar, for being so lucid. And thank you very much to all of you who are watching this. I hope you enjoyed that. And please check out the other videos on this channel, which I hope you will find equally interesting.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.